Welcome back to those who join us regularly, and hello to anyone new tuning in. We'll begin the webinar in just a moment, and in the meantime, we'd like to thank our 2026 Grow Native program sponsors. All right, welcome to our Grow Native webinar, Native Fruits to Diversify Your Farm and Garden, with Dr. Nadia Navarrete-Tindall, a professor and extension state specialist at Lincoln University of Missouri, plus one of our Grow Native committee advisors and a seasoned webinar partner. My name is Amanda Lance Ramrup, and I am the Events and Communications Coordinator for the 60-year-old Missouri Prairie Foundation and our Grow Native program. We are also joined by Lily Germeroff, MPF's Conservation Programs Coordinator, for the Q&A. Throughout the next hour, we invite listeners to please type your questions for Nadia in the Q&A section of your screen, which you will find on the bar at the bottom of your Zoom window. Later, Lily will join us to facilitate that Q&A discussion. Thank you to those who sent in questions in advance and to those that are going to be offered live today. This webinar is worth one CEU for those in the Grow Native Professional Certification Program. The program participants should complete the CEU request linked in our follow-up tomorrow within 5 days for credit. As a reminder, this webinar is being recorded and the link will be shared with all of you tomorrow, along with resources mentioned during the presentation and the Q&A session. I'll hop back on to wrap everything up around 5 p.m. Now I'd like to more thoroughly introduce Nadia. Nadia holds a BS in Agronomy from the Universidad El Salvador, an MS Forestry and PhD Plant Biology degree from Southern Illinois University Carbondale as well. She oversees outreach and education projects and topics related to native plants for their benefits to people and wildlife, including the FINCA project, which stands for Families Integrating Nature, Conservation, and Agriculture. That program provides educational tools to students, small farmers, and the public to identify, grow, and market native plants for food, conservation, naturescaping, and for those important pollinators. At present, she is implementing the Urban Ag Learning Hub with funds from an NIFA capacity building grant to coordinate training with other extension specialists on campus, non-for-profit organizations, other institutions, and local communities. Along with her team, she maintains 2 native plant demonstration areas on campus, including the Finca Eco Farm and the Native Plant Outdoor Laboratory at LU campus with more than 120 native plant species. In 2008, she received the Master Conservationalist Award, which is the highest conservation honor in Missouri. She owns a consultation business, Native Plants and More, and farms along with her husband, Randy, on a quarter-acre lot in Columbia, Missouri, with about 200 species native to Missouri that provide food and a safe haven for frogs, mammals, birds, insects, and of course, people. Nadia, thank you so much for taking time again to join us for a really great webinar. We'll turn things over to you now for your presentation.
Thank you so much, Amanda, and thank you, Lily, for helping out too. And we're gonna talk about native fruits for native fruits that you can grow in your farm or garden, based on my own experience. I just want to briefly mention about Lincoln University. That for those of you who don't know where we are located in Jefferson City, and it is a historically Black college university. In the Native and Specialty Crafts program, Amanda mentioned briefly what we do, and the point is to promote native plants not only for food but also for wildlife, as you can see in these beautiful photos. The program is growing all the time. We are now 11 staff members, and I included even my husband at the bottom right, because he is always a volunteer providing beautiful photos, and you will see some of them in this presentation. Amanda mentioned about the Native Plant Outdoor Lab. This is just a view of the lab from last year. And I always love to show our persimmon trees because I'm so proud of them. And everyone has, and at least that likes to try it, had a fruit from this tree. And even for people that didn't know anything about persimmons, now they know because they look at them and they taste them. It is a garden of excellence by Grow Native since 2021. It's very diverse. And we have the Finca Eco Farm also that Amanda mentioned that is based on the name Finca in Spanish that means farm. It's just a way for me to get close to home. When I talk about Finca Eco Farm, sometimes people don't understand what Finca means. So it's why we added the Eco Farm. It is actually a place where we grow lots of native edibles, maybe around 40, and we don't use any chemicals to maintain them. And the third location in Jefferson City is at the Busby Farm, which is an organic farm managed by Lincoln University Extension and Research. We have here a group of people attending a field day observing the huge sumacs that we get. For us, even sumacs are important. Sometimes people don't like them because they might be aggressive, but let's talk a little bit about that, why even sumacs can be good for you and wildlife. And I'll mention some of the stuff that I have been doing at home in our house in Colombia. Here is a plum. It's a native plum growing in the front yard. So I can see from our window every year when we see those all those bees visiting these flowers. It's just an amazing and perfect spot for us. So during this presentation, I'll just talk about fruits that can be mostly juicy fruits because we have so many more and we don't have enough time today. And, and mainly those that are woody. But of course, there will be some that will be missed in this presentation. The first group I want to mention is the wild plums. At the very beginning, when we started planting wild plums, at Lincoln, we thought that they were all American plums, and it's what many people think still. But we have 5 different species of wild plums in Missouri. They're all in the Rosaceae family, like our wild roses. And this is just a beautiful looking plum that is growing in Jeff City in one of our partners' locations. The 5 species that we have in Missouri, and I'm not including here one that is called Prunus munsoniana, but I have here the Prunus americana, and this is going to be shared with everyone so you can see how the plums are located across Missouri and across in the country. And you can see the American plum is very common, but now people are started thinking that maybe they have been misidentified in other locations. And what happened with wild plums is that they can if hybridized. So sometimes we have plants that look like one or the other. So it's pretty hard to tell them apart. And so this is American plum. We have also Prunus mexicana or Mexican plum. As you can see, the distribution is a little less spread than the American plum, but it's found across Missouri. And one characteristic that makes this tree different from the other plums is that the fruits are much larger. And I'll show you some photos in a few minutes. The third plum that we have is Prunus hortulana or hortulan plum, and it seems to be one of the most common these days. But again, we're still not completely sure. We think that out of the 12 trees that we have on campus at Lincoln, maybe at least half of them belong to this species. But you can see that according to the Tree of Missouri, that was written in 2003, that it was kind of scattered in the state. So it might be that there was some confusion with some species. And the last one I'd like to mention is the Prunus angustifolia or chickasaw. We would hope that the plants would stay exactly the same. But like, for example, this one would be different from the other species, that the leaves are much smaller and they're kind of folding. And they have a margin that has a gland, the margins have glands. So there are some characteristics that can help you to identify them. But it's still, when we talk about hybridization, sometimes it's very hard. But two I can be very certain of is that we have Prunus mexicana, like here in these photos, growing on campus. You see that the flowers have these distinctive pink stamens and pistil, and the flowers are much larger than your regular plums, and the fruits are also much larger, maybe close to half an inch. Some of them get that big, and they have that whitish coating, and you don't see they don't have any dots, so that makes them distinctive. They're produced in September. And this one, some of the trees that we have on campus look like this, and they have been identified as Prunus hortulana. And there is one characteristic that separated fruits from other plums is that they have white dots. But I would like to focus just on plums one day and just cover all the information, but we don't have the time today. The point is that all these plants are really important for wildlife and they're important for us. Some diversity occurs within species, and the fruits are not always sweet and tasty. They might vary depending on where they grow. Wild plums are a host to tiger swallowtail and several other months of butterflies, so that makes them very important. And as you can see in this photo on the right, is we have this is one of our plums on campus, and Sue Bartlett, our landscape designer, was just happened to be there when that butterfly was hatching or closing. And it was just amazing that we have people helping to harvest the fruit, and they witness the this butterfly. Some characteristics that all have in common, Mexican, Hortuland, and all of them, is that they can be propagated from seeds or cuttings or grafted material. If you want to select your best fruit, you can do it. Plenty space, but the more space, the better, because they tend to grow large. From 10 to 12 is adequate. They require full sun, but they can grow from dry soils to rich soils. And they can be planted in fall or early spring. Blooming time is from March to April. So pretty soon we're going to start seeing all those plums along roadsides and along woodlands. Maintenance, we do maintain, because the purpose of growing the plums at the finca, in other places on campus, and at our own home, excuse me, is to keep them contained. Most of these plums, except for Mexican, they still send suckers or underground shoots, but most of the plums form thickets if you don't do anything. If you have a place where you can allow them to be on their own and grow as much as they want, wonderful. But in a garden, you would have to maintain, and you have to keep in mind that they can create a thicket if you let them. So we prune them also because we have been observing that there are some diseases and insects that affect them. And by pruning, you're cleaning the tree and allowing more space. So for maintenance, we do prune early. It has to be actually this photo was taken yesterday. We were in the Boot Hill in Haywood City, southeast Missouri. So the trees were right on time for us. It's 4 hours from us from Colombia and Jeff City, so we won't go there often enough. But this was amazing. We had the workshop, and then all the volunteers help us maintain these trees. So you have to keep in mind that you have to get rid of the suckers that grow on the trees. Even for this one, these were Mexican plums that we established. They were forming some, not as much as others, but still they need to be pruned. And also you have to get rid of water sprouts that are vegetative um, um, shoots that don't produce anything. So be sure that if you want to have a tree looking good in your yard and productive, you should do some pruning. And we do offer training. So let us know if we can help. We do work with communities, so plums and elderberries and others unite us with our surrounding communities. This is a church right across from Lincoln. Back in 2018, we established trees and pollinator plants with Missouri Prairie Foundation garden grant. And if you can see the trees the following year, they grew a little, but they established well. The plums on on the left, but then in 2013, I started seeing those beautiful plums. And what is really neat, and that is important to plan ahead. Plums, if they are in an open area and they have more opportunity of be free of diseases and insects. So if you want them for production, be sure that you give them enough room to grow. We do have our annual You Pick What Plum program or project with our program. And is being so successful that we have it now for 6 weeks. Although the plums start producing or getting um, getting mature from mid-July to September, but we reduce our harvest because in August is when the fruits are the best. They're getting better, or at least they are larger. This is the same trees that we planted back in 2018, being very productive. Last year, the church goers and neighbors harvested the fruit. And I was pretty excited because now I know that they are protected. They know that they are so important and they love them. They made jelly and jams out of them. We do have field days where we have students from other states and local students that come to harvest. And just last year, we got about 400 pounds of plums from 10 or 12 trees that we grow on campus. But diversity is very high among open pollinated plum trees. And as you can see, it can go, I mean, I won't go through numbers, but you can see that each tree can produce much more than the others. And we do depend on volunteers for harvest. The best year for us was 2023 because it was a very dry year. So there were no incidents of insects or too many insects and diseases. And this was our bounty in 2023. We were just loaded with plums that we even find some plums that have been in the freezer since 2023. So if anybody wants some, let me know because we'll be happy to donate for any fundraising activities. We would love to do that. Now, that's all about plums. Continuing with the Rosaceae family, we have down is Serviceberry. We are not growing the Melanchier arborea because, or downy serviceberry, because it's a much larger tree. And we had tried, we did in the finca. It is a native species, so if you have a place to grow it, please try it. And you can find you can find sources of the bird root trees at the George White Nursery and many other nurseries in Missouri. But what we did, instead of growing because we try at the finca, we included a species of serviceberry, the Saskatoon, or a Melanchier alnifolia, that was considered like an ornamental a few years ago, is why it was introduced. And it's more like a northern species. It's not native to Missouri, but it's been introduced in many places. So we have it at the outdoor lab. It's very productive and it's also very important for the same pollinators that visit the downy serviceberry. And this is just a photo of the fruits. They're just really gorgeous. They look a little bit like blueberries. They mature early, so they're also called June berries. And if you might be able to get some fruit, but the birds love them so much that especially the robins, when they find them, there won't be any fruit left. And here is a photo that I just love that Mervyn Wallace took, and I think it's a pretty popular photo. But it tells you there that bird looks happy eating that little serviceberry, and I'm sure that we all are happy just to see it. And another couple species in the same Rosaceae is a wild black cherry, Prunus serotina. This is a really gorgeous looking tree. It can be pretty tall in a large tree or a mature tree would be up to 60 feet. But it has a place in farms. If you want to grow it in your yard, you can keep it pruned. And it's what I did. I found one growing in our yard, and because I know how good of a host plant is, because it feeds the eastern tiger swallowtail, the red spotted purple, and many other Lepidoptera. So this is a really important plant. And of course, in the spring, you find tons of native bees and other insects pollinating. This is a photo of the red spotted purple. Actually, is feeding on persimmon. You can see, but I'll talk a little bit about it later. But it just is the only way we got it. It's just one of the most gorgeous butterflies we have in our state. And here's just photo of the fruits, the immature fruits. And this is the tree at the finca. We know it's going to be pretty large, but I think we have a space for it. It's just a beautiful, beautiful tree and important for wildlife. The fruits are amazingly sweet, so you can make jams and jellies. And it's something that we don't, for the longest time, I knew about this tree and I didn't know how tasty they were. And here's just a diagram that I took also from trees of Missouri, where we have the Prunus serotina or wild cherry. And this is the seems to be the more common around in our area. Although based on the description in those book in the Tree of Missouri is not found in Cole County, but I've seen it growing. So it has been introduced as an ornamental, so it might be just spreading on its own. And on the right, we have Prunus virginiana. But the difference between the two, I mean, sometimes it's just hard with these trees to tell them apart. But the choke cherry or Prunus virginiana is much shorter. It's more like a shrub species, but it could become a tree. So it would be hard to separate them sometimes. But if you get tasty fruits, chances are is your wild cherry, and if the berries are bitter, is choke cherry. Is what the name comes from, choke cherry. All these trees, these two trees are really important for birds, of course, because the berries, and they are host plants for a myriad of moths and butterflies. I just have here some included: hair streaks, swallowtails, azures, viceroys, and I just have a photo of our viceroy at the finca. I was so excited because we always think that we're looking at a monarch. Of course, monarchs are, we're excited to see them. But when you see something that's, maybe it's not a monarch, it is a viceroy. And that was the case, in our case, at the finca. So that was exciting. So we know that we are feeding, we have diversity in our um, facilities. Now, Papa, it is a more recently has been introduced more like a more productive tree, and because the fruits are really large, and they can, some people might love them, some people don't. I'm one of those that I don't like the fruit for some reason, but we started planting papas back in 2000 when we first moved to our place, because I knew that the papa was good for the zebra swallowtail. So that was the point for me to grow papas for the butterflies. But now they're being productive. So, and my husband loves them. So it's a win-win for us. They can be grown from seed, but from by division, because they do send suckers too, not as bad as wild plums. And it requires about 3 to 4 years to produce fruit, same as for plums. But naturally they are grown in moist and shady conditions. Like this tree is in our yard, is on the north side of the house, and it's thriving. And let's see. And it's just to show you some of the fruits that we have produced. At Lincoln, we grow some selections, like you see on the right. And we also have Missouri natives. And we have about 3 years of production. And last year was a real good one. And just to give you an idea, the papas can be $1 to $2 per fruit. And people are looking for more producers. There are not enough. And I say that there is an opportunity there to to um, to have some extra income for those of you who have a place to grow them. The harvest season is from August to September. I remember in the past, before these heating waves that we had, you could wait till the end in the winter almost to harvest them. So climate is changing and the fruits are performing differently. So here is just for those of you who haven't seen a zebra swallowtail. I hope that many of you have. This is a zebra in our place with a little caterpillar, pretty busy munching on the leaves of the pawpaw in our yard. But I also was excited a couple of years ago to find a pawpaw sphinx moth because everybody talks so bad about the sphinx moth. I even grow tomatoes to grow to be sure that the sphinx moths have food. And my husband grows them for food, and I grow them for the caterpillars. But so when I saw this one on the pawpaw, I, I wasn't sure, and then I realized that it's a pawpaw, a sphinx moth. There are many, many species of sphinx moths, so it's good to learn about them so we can protect them. Don't think that all of them would eat your tomatoes. There are many, they eat many other plants with their different species. And just to, for as a curiosity, because I'm originally from El Salvador, I'm always comparing the vegetation and animals in my own country with here. The by Pawpaws are in the castor apple family or Anonaceae. And I found out this, of course, I got it from Wikipedia. This butterfly, you can see, it looks just like the zebra, only much lighter, feeding on a relative of pawpaw. So for me, that is it just amazing and wonderful to learn. Now, moving on, we have members of the Lariaceae family. And I hope, I don't know if you all know that the avocado is part of this family. So Spicebush as well as sassafras are relative to avocados. And Spice bush, I put it here because we consume the fruit. It is good for birds. We see them all those for bird all the birds that feed on berries showing at the outdoor lab. We have seen bluebirds, we have seen robins, of course, they just go crazy, and even some cardinals were feeding. I don't know if they do eat them, but we saw them in the tree, and they were pretty happy looking for the berries. And this on the right is the spice bush blooming early in the spring, which are it's gonna be pretty soon. And the fruits mature in the fall. And as if you haven't had them yet, they can be used for a spice. And they have similar to avocado and sassafras. They are dioecious plants. The one plant produces the female flowers, and and the other will produce the male. So you have to be sure that you have both if you want fruit. And the only way I did it myself is just buying from Forest Killing. They have some that are grafted or grown. I really don't know if they were from cuttings, but I knew there were female plants and male plants. So I have both. And since then, I haven't been, they reproduce themselves. So we have about 3 plants now with fruits. And they are the host plant for the spicebush swallowtail butterfly. And they're also like pawpaws found in the forest understory, and they do need moisture. If you put them in a dry place where they maybe in the spring or the summer you get bad soil, they don't mind bad soil. But if it's in a very clay soil and it dries out, the trees don't like it. So I lost one like that. They need moist and shade. And here is it is a spice bush in September, and this is in the fall. So they are all year long. They can be beautiful. And you can use even the twigs in the winter for flavoring beverages. And this is a gorgeous fruits on sassafras. I thought that it's just an amazing, beautiful plant that we need to grow more. I know what is funny about the sassafras, they might do well on their own, and when you try to grow them, they're pretty picky. So you learn about their conditions and look at these gorgeous looking fruits. And just imagine, this is like I call them sassafras and the spice bush, like tiny, tiny avocados, because this is how they look in the tropics. And they are the host plant, the sassafras, for the imperial moth. Sorry, what did I do? I apologize. I click on something and I let me see. Let me get out of here. What did I do?
That's
Oh,
okay. Do you think it's maybe frozen? From my end, it's showing the screen, but it's not advancing.
okay. So let me see if I can. Oh, there
So
we
you could,
go. Thank you. It happens sometimes.
oh yeah. So go ahead and
Okay.
hit the right arrow when you're ready to go forward, maybe instead of clicking.
hmm There we, okay. I see. Mm. Next. I'm gonna see, we're gonna, hopefully we won't have any more problems. Thank you, Amanda.
Absolutely.
So, so we have the here are some photos of what we use the spice, how we prepare the spice bush berries. And here you can see the berries dry. I just let them sit on a counter and they dried on their own, and they can be ground with a motor or with a coffee grinder, and just sassafras root. This was purchased from one of those bulk stores that Mennonites manage. They sell sassafras root, but you can do your own. Here's a beautiful berries, spice bush. Another, more like a not shrubby, but more like a shrub. The plant that you can grow in your own yard is Missouri gooseberry, and they actually came on their own uh, into our yard. We didn't plan any of this, but it's just amazing to see the uh, all the bees that visit these flowers, the flowers of the gooseberries. So sometimes we don't think about it, that maybe we don't like them because they're prickly and maybe we don't want them in our yard, but you can prune them. You can keep just a short shrub if you want to. And if you just want to provide food for the bees, you just let it flower. But if you have a space for them, they can be productive too. And these actually are in our own yard. We have only 1 acre of 1 acre, 1/4 of an acre um, lot, and the house is there. So we managed to have diversity in our space, and I think anybody can do it. There is another species of gooseberries that grows in Missouri. So, but the most common is the Missouri gooseberry. Another ribis species that grows in Missouri, which is more not exactly. I think it's kind of sporadic in Missouri, is golden or club currant. The reason we grow it, this is actually at the finca. We planted it because we learn about the aroma that the flowers produce. So they can be not only beautiful in the spring, but they smell so wonderful. And we haven't been able to produce too much fruit, but the flower can be used to replace cloves. So you can use it in cooking. And like in this case, you can see how productive they could be. I mean, the lots of flowers. You can save some for your own use. They all spread. They can be fine. They can form thickets, so you would have to prune or find a spot where they don't interfere with with a regular garden. And elderberries, I guess, the same as pawpaw, they have been in the news a lot. There is even there are many producers in the state now, but I remember seeing them in ditches and in places where nobody had planted them, and they're still there. But unfortunately, now with so much spraying around us, some of those areas have disappeared. So we have to put them back. And we have them growing at the finca in two locations. In our yard, we have it, but we keep it contained because they can spread readily. And just to show you what these are several elderberries that we grew, but they pretty soon they form a very thick hedgerow. And this could be used as a private fence or living fence that at the same time you'll be feeding the birds. And again, first it berries will visit the older berries. We harvest some, but I would say that at least half of the production that we have at the finca is for the birds and other animals. They can be propagated usually from cuttings. That is for production. But if you want to diversify or have some an open pollinated elderberry, you can grow them from seed easily. And this is the next group is the Sumacs. This is wind sumac, and see how gorgeous these fruits are. At first, I thought they were flowers, but it's actually the berries or the drupe is actually botanically known that is formed and they're pinkish at the beginning before they become pure red, like this, like in this picture. And they have compound leaves with wing raches. That what makes them different from the smooth sumac that don't have any wing. That is that separates them. They both have red berries or drupes, and they are source of vitamin C. And the last, they are also good in the spring. They attract many bees, bumblebees, carpenter bees, little bees, and it's just amazing to see how the animals look so happy when they find these flowers. So we grow them for them. And here's a fragrant or aromatic sumac. It can be a gorgeous shrub, much shorter than the wing and smooth sumac. It is especially in the fall. It's just an amazing, beautiful plant. All the sumacs are. Here's a close-up of the flowers, very tiny. They're visited by bees. And here are the fruits formed later in the year. They're much faster than wing and smooth. And they are the sumacs in general are host plants for like red-banded hairstreak and other butterflies. But these little butterflies feed on other species too. And this is just to give you an idea what we do with the sumacs. We won't talk much about what the fruits are for, but we can make what we call the sumac aid and even syrup or jam. Just a pretty photo I remember with that Randy took years ago. And I'd like to mention this plant. This is not my photo, and I got it from an extension site because everybody asks about sumac, poison sumac. We don't have sumac, or if we have it, it grows in swamps. And this is how they look. They're all related to poison ivy too. But because the poison ivy is related to sumac, doesn't mean that that sumacs, the red producing berries are not poisonous. They are edible. But if you are concerned, please be sure not to try them, because we never know about allergies. So this is how this poison sumac looks like. And they don't produce red berries. They produce white berries. And we're getting close to our time, so cover we're gonna cover persimmon because it's one of my favorite trees, and I just have to show you how it grows in our areas there in at Lincoln. You see them changing colors in the fall here, right? And this is our office in Jefferson City. Please be sure you contact me if you're interested in a tour for yourself, your family, your groups. We're open. And about persimmons, similar to sassafras and spicebush, they are dioecious. They have male and female flowers in separate trees, and they're pollinated by bees. And so that was a neat photo to show here how the persimmon is forming. And this is what the first thing I remember I learned when I first came to this country about persimmons. The bark is kind of like very distinguished, and it's something that we forget. Well, I didn't think about it for a long time, but that was make me learn about persimmons. And on the left, we have a hackberry, which I'm not gonna cover today, but also has edible fruits. And this is the persimmon in front of our office. It's a host plant for imperial moths and others. So persimmons, I have to skip this part, but persimmons are really easy to grow. They don't require special treatment. They don't require pruning. But of course, if they grow too much, you have to do your own maintenance. But they can be productive by growing them from seed in 3 to 4 years. It's just amazing. And the trees that you see in front of our building, we didn't plant them. It was the possums or the raccoons that live nearby. And we do have persimmons at Lincoln University in some areas where the trees are not touched because they are not part of um, the landscaping. And this is how our persimmons look like. They're just very beautiful and large. And we started grafting them because everybody asks, not everybody, but people ask, how do I know that I'm going to have a female tree? And I say, from seed, there's no way you can know. But if you want to graft, maybe a good persimmon that you know that is producing fruit into your own persimmon, and then you know for sure that you're gonna get fruits. But that is the only way. So grafted trees can be found also commercially. And they feed the spotted purple also, not from as host plants, but because they like to eat. Looks pretty awful because it was at the end of the season in winter. I like to save persimmons and put them in the freezer and put them outside when all the fruits are gone. And then these spotted purples found my persimmons that were pretty rotten, but they were happy And Randy could take pictures of them. They were just eating. They were not too concerned about us. And that's what we do with persimmon also. We promote them. We have a farmers market is part of the program too. And this was in 2024 that we sold the persimmons in this way. And so people like it. And we sold them for $4 a dozen. So that's to give you an idea that if you have plenty of persimmons and you have the time to do this, and if you want to make money, you can do it. And you can sell them at the market on campus. So you just let us know. And we have everybody got involved. These are all colleagues from Extension. They were all, I mean, it's like everybody's competing and see who gets more. So we have been approximately guessing that one tree, at least our tree, produces about 120 pounds um, of persimmons. So it's pretty, can be very productive. And I will stop here and maybe we can have some time for questions. And I want to mention the American beautyberry that we usually see the beautiful berries in the fall, but we don't think about the flowers. And I don't have pictures here showing all the little insects that visit these flowers, but we have seen them loaded with them. So if you don't, and also they can be eaten, but they are not too flavorful, so I would leave them for the robins and other birds. And I will share with this, not in this presentation, but I will send an email to Amanda to include references and also all the sources that I check to prepare this talk. So I'm ready for questions.
Great. Thank you, Nadia. That was so
Mhm.
informative. We had a few questions that I think we'll be able to cover in just the next few minutes, but I'll start with, a reminder that, this webinar is intended as general information only. As with any food, there is potential for allergic reactions. So, seek the advice of a health professional before eating any plant matter. We kind of have to say that. But there were multiple questions, Nadia, on the setting of these plants, how they grow. It seemed like many that you covered were understory trees. So if
Mhm.
someone had, a shady yard, it seems like many of these species would do well. We so maybe you can comment on that, and also if there are any that do well in full sun, in case people don't have trees yet.
Yeah, like even pawpaws that usually are recommended to be grown in the shade because naturally they grow in the shade. We did grow some in open conditions. We have some in the back at the finca. They're under a sycamore tree and they're thriving. But we planted some also in the front where it's open and they're doing well, but they do need moisture. So yes, they can be planted in more open areas, but moisture is essential. And like things like so that is with the what I just say with the remind me what I just say.
Yeah, the pawpaws do
Yeah,
well.
the purpose. I'm
Mhm.
sorry.
No,
Yeah.
you're fine.
Yeah, so just to give you an idea, in our yard, we have a lot of shade. So we have some, I did mention some viburnums that can be edible, like a rusty black hawk that can grow in in shade. They seem to thrive. But also we have some in open conditions. They receive maybe 6 hours of sun, and they do well in or more open conditions. But they just grow smaller. And with pawpaws, the idea is that if they receive more sun, they are more productive. But it just depends where they grow. Moisture is essential. And elderberries is another species that you find in usually moist and open ditches, like in many disturbed areas. But they get and see entire plantings in the under sun. So some of these plants are adapted to shade and sun. But moisture again is essential because elderberry, if you plant it on in very open areas, they need to be watered if the soil is too dry.
Great, thank you. I'm
Mhm.
sure that the resources that you follow up with, as well as the native plant database, can also help people really narrow in on if the species will work in their particular condition. So thank you.
Mhm.
Now we had
Sure.
some questions similar to what you address with persimmon of making sure that you have a male and a female to get fruit. We had a question of with pawpaws.
Mhm.
Maybe if you've had a pawpaw for many years with no fruit, how does that work?
Yeah, you need a companion. I always say plants like company. So don't plant just one of each. If that goes for the wildflowers. We used to plant just one. And then well, at least if you have the space, plant two or three, because and then that would help. They will help each other to pollinate, and they do need cross pollination. Like in the case of persimmons, we do have. You saw that we have like two trees in the front of the building, but actually there are four, and we leave some just for the flowers, and just to there are a couple males that pollinate the female. So it's not just two. I mean, at least two. In the case of male, in the case of persimmon, it has to be a male and a female for sure.
Great, thank you. We had a question on wild plum seeds, if they require stratification or nicking. And again, we'll have resources out on this, but maybe you could touch on how wild plums can be planted from seed.
There is usually the same as with wildflowers. They can be stratified for up to 6 weeks with cold weather. Like if you similar to wildflowers, we just put them in pots. We plant 1 to 2 seeds per pot and leave them outside during the winter, and in the spring they will germinate. So they do need a stratification. They I don't think they need I mean they need a stratification, but not a scarification to germinate. And I've seen that in my compost because if you put them in a compost, you have tons of wild plums in the spring.
I love that. One more question. So, you plant many of these species for the wildlife and for human use, but there were a few questions of how can you limit competition between us and squirrels or birds? Do you employ any tactics in the gardens?
Well, we have seen, because maybe we are not a productive farm on campus, we don't think about it. But we put with the plums, they have been so prolific that we don't have to worry about it. Which hair? And we even saw some ground squirrels coming one year. We haven't seen them in the last 2 years, but they were feeding on the little on the plants that we were not eating or we were discarding because they didn't look great. we share them with the groundhogs. We do have groundhogs at the finca if you want to come and see them. And because we protect them, we want to learn to live with them. I understand if you live in a neighborhood, it's another story. I wish I could have a groundhog in my neighborhood, but it's no way. And so, but if I see one, I feed it. But I don't see too many problems. It's a different story if you are a producer and you see that too many birds are eating your berries, and then you have to think about protecting your fruit production. There are ways to do it that won't affect wildlife.
Great. Thank you so much, Nadia. I
You're
appreciate your
welcome.
time. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Nadia and Lily, and thank you to everybody at home for your discussion questions. Now for a couple of announcements. MPF invites the public to take part in celebrating our 60th anniversary through our very first juried photo contest. It is happening now through the end of June on our more than 35 properties. Participants should review the full photo contest rules and guidelines before participating. You can find all of that at moprairie.org under the Education and Outreach tab. Actually, there's still time to register for a guided tour of one of our prairies on March 19th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. This is a winter ecology hike, and it'll be held at MPF's Stillwell Prairie in Vernon County, Missouri. It's going to be under the guidance of MPF Technical Advisor Jeff Cantrell. Next, register and save the dates for upcoming webinars, including a two-part soil exploration series with Sam Lord and an Ozark ethnobotany webinar with Shaw Nature Reserve. You can find registration for those linked in our follow-up email tomorrow and by visiting moprairie.org. Next, there are just a couple of seats left to join us for our Grow Native Southwest Illinois workshop to be held in Edwardsville, Illinois on March 27th from 7:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. with a theme of purposeful prairie plantings. Breakfast is included in the price of admission. You can learn all about it in our follow-up and be sure to register at the latest on March 13th or sooner if you want to get your spot. Finally, the Missouri Prairie Foundation and Grow Native program are kicking off our 10 native plant sales for this spring with our first one at Runge Nature Center in Jefferson City, Missouri on March 28th. To follow that sale are sales in April and May located in Columbia, St. Louis, Kansas City, and St. Joseph, Missouri, as well as one in Godfrey, Illinois. Find out more in our follow-up and share these event pages with your networks through Facebook and other social channels. With that, I'll go ahead and conclude today's webinar, but before we part, I'm going to send things over to Nadia for any parting announcements.
Be sending the announcements later. We have something that is not related to native plants, and we have a compost workshop on March 18th. So if anybody's interested, please send me an email or visit our Facebook page, Native Plants and More. But I just want to be sure that everybody, because I didn't mention the Grow Native, we're talking about Grow Native. If anybody needs additional information, Grow Native provides plenty of information regarding even everything that we covered today. And I will be sure I go through because there are some questions that I would need more time to respond. I'd be happy to answer and share with everyone if that is possible.
Yeah, thank you so much. And just as a reminder to everybody, that follow-up email tomorrow is going to contain links to a lot of resources that we've covered today, as well as some extras. And it'll also be including a Nadia's Lincoln University email address for those one-on-one questions that you have about these native edible plants.
Mhm.
So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. And
Thank
with
you.
that, have a great night. Bye.
Thank you.